I turned being underestimated into billions. You are the product. People invest in you and how you make them feel, not just what you sell.
Most people think Kim Kardashian is famous for nothing, and honestly for a long time so did I. But the more I looked into her story, the less that explanation made sense. Because behind the headline, the images, is one of the most strategic rises in celebrity history. How did someone go from being dismissed by the world to building a billion-dollar empire while becoming one of the most recognizable people on the planet? So I spent the last month looking into her story, and what I found genuinely changed the way I see her.
Listen, I love my life. I love everything that comes along with it. I am not complaining.
So let me show you how Kim Kardashian really rose.
The scripture says of our children that they are a heritage from the Lord, that she might be a great woman of God.
Kim Kardashian was born in Beverly Hills, Los Angeles, just a turn away from the glittering world of Hollywood, close to it, but not quite inside it. Not yet. She was the second of 4 children, the daughter of Kris Jenner and Robert Kardashian, and both of them mattered to her rise, but in very different ways. Her father was a businessman and a lawyer, a successful man who had already built wealth and status in Los Angeles. By all accounts, Robert Kardashian was a hard worker, and that work ethic would spread through the whole family later on. But the thing that made him naturally known had nothing to do with business. And that is important, because Kim didn't just grow up around money, she grew up around visibility. In 1986, when Kim was 8 years old, her parents divorced, and in 1991, she was about 10 years old when her mother married Caitlyn Jenner. So even before Kim was famous herself, she was already growing up in a world built around image, ambition, and public attention. But the moment that really changed everything came in 1995, and it came through something much darker.
Yes, Hugh, and speaking out, Robert Kardashian may be putting himself in legal jeopardy. He's a lawyer, revealing confidential details of this murder case to us tonight and in a soon-to-be-published book. Details that have O.J. Simpson and his lawyers in this current civil trial concerned.
At this time in American history, the entire country was watching this case. It was a pretty big deal. Suddenly, her father wasn't just successful, he was visible. The family wasn't just wealthy anymore. It was in the public eye. And for a 14-year-old Kim Kardashian, that mattered more than you may think. Because from the background, she was watching fame, media, and public obsession much closer. Not as entertainment, but as education. Before Kim Kardashian was famous herself, she was learning how fame worked. That attention doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from intrigue, from image, from giving people a story they can't stop following. And soon she was about to get even closer to it.
Everyone love you, so I'll miss you all. And does everyone get a tape of this? Because I hope you do, so you can see me when I'm famous and older and remember me of this beautiful little...
But in the early 2000s, Kim Kardashian wasn't famous. At least not yet, but she was getting very close. She had grown up around status, around visibility, around people who understood attention, telling people, quote, "I'm going to be famous someday." And now she was stepping into that world herself, not as a star, not as a headline, but in the background. After high school, Kim Kardashian started working with wealthy clients, organizing clothes, sorting designer clothes, moving through the same spaces as celebrities and socialites.
Go to my clients' homes and I help them clean out their closets, and we take whatever they don't want and I sell it for them on eBay.
And this matters because this wasn't just a job. It was access to the rooms, the people, the kind of lifestyle the public was already obsessed with. And eventually, that world led her to Paris Hilton.
Hi, I'm Paris Hilton, and I'm here to tell you why the early 2000s were the hottest years in fashion history, but you already knew that.
At the time, Paris Hilton was one of the biggest celebrities on the planet. She was everywhere. The paparazzi, the parties, the entire culture seemed to orbit around her. And standing next to Paris, Kim wasn't just around fame anymore. She was inside the orbit, but not the main character. Not yet. She was the person in the background, just outside of the fame. The one person most people weren't paying attention to. But from that position, she was learning something valuable. She was learning where to be seen, what got photographed, what made people care, how attention moved, and how image could become power. Because in that world, being visible wasn't just about power. It was about leverage. And for Kim, this was a front row education on how fame actually worked. In this world, you didn't always need to be the most talented person in the room. Sometimes you just had to understand attention better than anyone else. And Kim was starting to understand it very well. For years, she stayed close enough to fame to study it, but still far enough away to be ignored by it. And then that changed.
First, you think that, you won't really get used to the cameras, and then you kind of just forget they're there, and we're just kind of hanging out, doing what we usually do. We wanted to be...
Years she had been around fame, close enough to study it, but she still wasn't the story. And then all at once, she was. In 2007, a private tape linked to Kim and Ray J was leaked to the public, and almost overnight, everything changed.
Would you be where you are had there not been a sex tape?
I think that's how I was definitely introduced to the world, so I'd like to think that I'm aware. I'm not naive to that fact that that's pretty much how I was introduced to the world. It was a negative way, so I felt like I really had to work 10 times harder to get people to see the real me.
For a lot of people, Kim Kardashian essentially became a joke, a punchline, someone to dismiss, not someone to respect, not someone to take seriously. Just another girl who had become famous for the worst type of reason. And honestly, this is a part of the story where it matters a lot, because this should have ended everything. Before Kim Kardashian had even built a real name for herself, the world had decided who she was. And once the internet decides who you are, that label can follow you for a very long time. For most people, this could have been the end. A scandal too big to outrun, a reputation too damaged to rebuild. But for Kim Kardashian, this wasn't the end. It was a turn. This should have buried her. Instead, she saw an opportunity to capture attention. With all the cameras in her face, it became the beginning of something much bigger.
Stand up, ladies! Give it up for the Kardashians! Oh my God!
And this part is where most people misunderstand Kim Kardashian the most, because what happened next wasn't random, it wasn't luck, it wasn't just a scandal, and it definitely wasn't just fame. It was strategy, because right as the world was reducing her to a headline, she and her family were building something much bigger.
They're your typical blended Hollywood family. Blended, shaken, and stirred. E's hit show, Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Series premiere Monday at 8:30 on E!
And with it, everything changed, because this wasn't just a reality show. It was a system designed to turn private life into obsession. The fights, the relationship, the family, the drama, it all became content. And for the first time, Kim Kardashian wasn't someone people talked about. She became the center of the story people kept coming back to. And the more they watched, the more powerful the family became. But Kim, maybe more than everyone else. This wasn't just exposure, it was control. Control over image. And once you can do that, attention becomes something else. It becomes leverage. That is what Kim was learning here. How to stay visible, how to stay relevant, how to turn any moment, good or bad, into momentum. And while a lot of people were laughing at her, she was learning how to build, how to take attention and turn it into structure. That is a part people missed. They thought she was just being watched. What was really happening was that she was learning how to shape the watching, because fame was never the final product. It was the foundation, and once she had the foundation, attention, she could move on to her final step.
She needs no introduction, right? But this is Kim Kardashian, the founder of Skims, which is, I should note, one of this year's Time 100 most influential companies. She's also a mom.
And once fame became the foundation, Kim Kardashian started building on top of it. Because by this point, she wasn't just famous anymore. She was building an empire. What started as visibility, attention, and reality television was turning into something much bigger. Business, and I mean real business. Kim Kardashian was no longer someone people just watched. She became someone people bought from. Because attention is valuable, but attention that can reliably sell, that's when the game really changes. Over time, Kim Kardashian turned her image into infrastructure, beauty, fragrance, fashion, and eventually...
I'm Kim Kardashian West. I'm a mother, millionaire, law student, and billionaire. I'm also the proud owner of Skims shapewear products. Skims has given comfort and support to millions of women of all shapes and sizes, but we're just getting started. Introducing new Skims.
She figured out how to turn visibility into a fucking money printing machine, and it kept her at the center. Year after year, the more the machine grew, the harder she became to dismiss. Because at a certain point, you can laugh at someone all you want, but if they keep winning, keep growing, keep building, eventually the joke stops being on them and it starts being on you. And at this point, Kim wasn't just surviving the culture anymore, she was shaping it. The way people dressed, the way people paused, the way people talked about beauty, and even the way celebrities were viewed. And at that point, it became clear this was never going to be a short flash of fame. It had become something much bigger than that.
I definitely always took the doubt as motivation. I always felt like, and still do, always feel a bit insecure about it.
By this point, Kim Kardashian's story stops being just about Kim Kardashian, because this was never just a story about fame. It was a story about understanding how fame actually works. About understanding that attention, even bad attention, could be turned into momentum. That image can be turned into value. Because Kim Kardashian figured out better than almost anyone else, attention is really the only thing that matters. If anything, under the right conditions, it becomes something much bigger. That's what makes her rise interesting. Not just that she became famous, not that just she became rich, but that she turned attention into power and built an empire on top of it. And the real genius of Kim Kardashian was never getting the world to look at her. It was learning what to do once they did. I don't even know how to end this video. That was just a banger. Comment down what celebrity I should do next and just hit that subscribe button. Have a great day.